A warning today that the education gap between children from different backgrounds is increasing because of lockdown. The Institute for Fiscal Studies says children from richer households are spending an additional 75 minutes a day on educational activities compared to those from poorer homes. Well, let's talk now to the former Education Secretary, Justine Greening, who joins us from Wandsworth in South West London. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Is this one of the reasons why you want primary schools and secondary schools to get back in action as soon as is practical?
Yes, because it's very clear that there's an opportunity gap that COVID has made worse. There was already children from disadvantaged families coming out of our schools and into a jobs market less well placed to do well than those from more advantaged backgrounds. Education's the great leveler, and of course our schools have been shut. So what now needs to happen really are two things. First of all, we do need to see our schools back open when it's safe to do so. That will mean a phased return, and that could mean a phased return that differs in different parts of the country. But getting our schools open is only one part of it. The second part is the government needs to come forward with a plan to help those children that we know have been disadvantaged by the school shutdown to catch up. That may be intensive tutoring, it may be an increase in the pupil premium, but it's not enough to just get schools open over the coming weeks. We have to have a proper plan so that those children who couldn't afford to fall behind but are able to then catch up and get their education back on track.
Are you saying that you think that the government's plans to get primary school classes and a couple in secondary school going again, that those are inadequate, that they need to be finessed?
I think what I'm saying, Adam, is that the plan should focus on those who've been most disadvantaged by the shutdown. And those are three groups in particular. First of all, children and young people on free school meals. Secondly, it's of course children with special needs who absolutely need more special attention and expertise being back in school. And of course, it's young people with the least time left in our education system to be able to catch up, and those who are facing exams. Those young people are the priority. But beyond that, the government also needs to look at young people who are later in our education system at university, and also those who are in the workplace and particularly badly affected by the coronavirus shutdown of our economy. There was already an opportunity gap. There's now a bigger one because of COVID, and both government and businesses need to have a plan on how they're going to tackle that for our young people.
No, but as you know, this has turned into a bit of a slanging match between some representatives of the teachers and the government and head teachers getting involved. But you seem to be saying that a kind of blanket plan of saying, right, primary schools in England are starting again in that limited extent at the beginning of June, that does need a rethink, that we need to focus on certain children, certain schools, certain areas.
I'm saying we need to be driven, obviously, by the science. We have to open schools safely. And I'm saying we secondly need to be driven by helping those young people who've been the most disadvantaged by the school shutdown. And I think we need a workable plan brought forward. There is no point having a battle over the airwaves on this. What we really need are our politicians and our unions to be able to sit down and in a common sense way work through a proper plan. But what everybody needs then from the government is a longer term plan on how they're going to help these children who've been most disadvantaged by the school shutdown catch up. I'm saying it's not just enough to signal that schools are opening and have a plan for that. I'm saying there also needs to be a plan to help those children catch up. And dare I say, Adam, it's a plan that needs to be there anyway in order to close those gaps that open up in the education system. We're not going to have Britain bounce back if we continue to be a country where only some people can be successful and contribute to that success of a wider economy. We have to transform Britain into being a country where there's equality of opportunity so that everyone can play a role in making our country successful.
I understand that, and that is important, but at the moment we're just at that very delicate junction over the next few months of going back to schools, and as you say yourself, is it safe? And the interesting thing is, if you look at the IFS survey, for example, the very parents of those less advantaged children are the ones who are most worried about the safety implications of going back to school. And we know that people in jobs, less skilled jobs, have been people who've been adversely affected by coronavirus. So that's an additional problem, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's why it needs a much more thoughtful approach. Many of those parents may be concerned about their children going back to school because it's their children who are actually taking care of some of their other siblings, and their parents are out key working. So it does need to be a much more thought through plan than just simply having schools opening. We're going to have to work with parents very directly. And that may mean for parts of the country where it is harder to get schools open quickly, having a much smarter approach on home learning and how teachers can then work with young people if they have to stay at home for whatever reason, whilst we do a phased return to school. What we can't do is just have a simplistic approach that misses the complexities of the challenges that parents and teachers are facing on the front line. Parents have done their level best to help their children through their schooling and through this crisis, but actually it's time to look at how we can, in a smart way, get them back to school. What I'm saying is that's just part of the solution on how we help these children who've been most disadvantaged by the school shutdown catch up. And there needs to be a much broader plan brought forward that I think can then reassure parents that there's a full approach by the government in place to help Britain bounce back.
What do you say to those who say, well, look at Denmark, look at Norway, Telegraph headline today, the risk of the virus spreading in schools is extremely low, they say, according to major studies, that we're just making too much fuss about this?
I think we do need to be driven by the science and the issue of disadvantage and the fact that the gap's getting wider between our children every day that our schools stay shut. I think we can look and learn from other countries like Denmark. I've been disappointed to see how politicized this debate has become. I think it's a matter of approach and a matter of fact. And I think the public want to see the heat taken out of this argument, and they want to see plans brought forward that seem sensible for getting our children back to school over the coming weeks.
OK, thank you very much indeed. Justine Greening there.